Thanks for joining us for Arc Salt Lake on this Friday. I'm Heidi Hatch. February 7th. Tonight we're taking a look at the decision from the Salt Lake County District Attorney to not charge two Taylorsville officers who shot and killed a man last year, and how a 52-year-old cold case was finally revived. First, though, we also need to talk about the weather. If you're expecting skiers home tonight, it could be a while. Rain for some, snow for others today. More on the way. Meteorologist Sean Kelly here with that first alert forecast. Yeah, that rain and snow still falling up and down the Wasatch Front, including up into the mountains, and our ski resorts doing really well with this storm. I mean, this was nice. Over 11 inches in Alta. I think they'll probably end up with 13 or 14 inches before this is all said and done. 9 inches in Deer Valley. Snow Basin picking up nearly a half a foot of snow, and we had the winds out ahead of this storm for sure. 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts at the Snow Basin peak. Evanston nearing 70 miles per hour earlier today, 53 in Cedar City. Luckily, the winds are already beginning to die down. Notice the wind shift out of the north and west in the wake of the cold front. That will continue to drop the temperatures. Still gusty from Delta down through Cedar City. Could see some 30 to 40 mile per hour winds. And yes, the snow is still falling up and down our mountains here. The ski resort's doing really well. We've got a mix of rain and snow across the valleys right now as the snow levels continue to drop. 41 degrees here in Salt Lake City. Winds for the most part are getting lighter and lighter. We still have about 2 to maybe 3 more hours for the potential for a mix of rain and snow. We'll talk about the timing that we'll see as we get into the weekend and how that forecast is looking. That's coming up. Sean, thank you. We'll see you then. On March 17th of last year, Taylorsville police officers shot and killed a man while responding to a domestic violence dispute. At the time, police said a man in a garage showed a weapon, and that's when officers fired. Today, Salt Lake County Attorney Gill released his findings from the shootings and why he decided to not file charges in the case. Listen in.
So what this is going to show you is the orientation. So the garage is here. Mr. Afeaki is here. Officer Rogers, Meekum, and Fullwood are here. Sergeant Keller, who comes in from behind, is over here, and Officer Clough. That was the original sort of positioning of it at this point when they had made the decision sometime almost over a half an hour or later of trying to talk to Mr. Afeaki. When the videos that are going to be shown to you, what you will notice is that Officer Rogers will sort of move this way, Sergeant Keller will move this way, they will move this way, and then Officer Fullwood will canter off to the right. And we do have his body-worn camera that gave us that angle. So as he moves from here, he holds fire. Officer Clough holds fire. But these were the 3 involved officers as they sort of move to the threat as they perceive it. So let me take you to this next point. This is a still picture, and I want to just sort of, again, give you the positioning. So what you'll notice is this is from Sergeant Keller, who has moved from here to this way. Then we have the 3 officers here. And this profile that you see is the profile of Officer Fullwood, who's also cantering off. This still is taken as fire has already been returned to the threat that's being presented. So I just wanted to kind of give you a bit of orientation. This next section that I'm going to have you go to, now this is important because I had 4 officers who had body-worn camera, and we synced them together to give you both the dynamic nature of the incident and at the same time what they were seeing and perceiving simultaneously as this incident happened. So this is Mr. Afeaki here, and here's from the angle from Officer Fullwood. So go ahead and play this out, please.
What do you do that makes this happen?
That motion right there is to arrest. Keep it.
Now, we stopped that video there so you wouldn't see the actual shooting happening. It all ended in a matter of seconds. Here's what Gill said after the shooting played out.
That gives you both how quickly this transpired and also the different positioning that we were able to look at. Now, what I wanted to share with you next is Officer Fullwood, I believe. This is a video, but this is slowed down. And so this was one of the better angles that we had. As I said, Officer Full was to the right, and as he starts to canter over to the right, he continues to have a look at as Mr. Afeaki, and he was also the one who held his fire, because as he hears the gun and fires occurs, and he's moving out of the way, he recognizes that the threat has come to a conclusion, so he does not fire us to understand what they had seen and what the two of the three reporting officers who did give us the interviews indicated, who were the non-shooting officers. So they had been, keep in mind, this had gone on for a period of time. They were interacting with Mr. Afeaki, trying to get him to talk about his family. At one time, Mr. Afeaki actually wanted cigarettes, and one of the officers actually went down to his car to get the cigarettes for Mr. Afeaki and bring them back to him, as they were trying to get him to get the help that he needed and to exit out of the garage. But he had indicated to him that he was not going to do that. And given the concern for the family safety as well as the officers, they had made the decision to go ahead and arrest him on the warrants that were there. So this is the blanket. There is a table. You can see the edge line over here. This is the phone in his hand here. And so keep an eye on this movement here. Go ahead and play that, please.
Now, Salt Lake County District Attorney Gill says after reviewing the video and the officer's statements, his office has determined the officers were justified in that shooting because the suspect in the case reached for his gun. And now to a 2 News investigation into a 52-year-old cold case that was cracked in 2024. Police arrested and charged the only suspect in the 1972 crime that is still alive. Jim Spiewak discovered how detectives use new technology to break this case wide open.
November 1972, the weekend after Thanksgiving, 21-year-old Gregory Dahl Nickel was shot in his car, and it was later set on fire with him in it. His 18-year-old date was kidnapped and raped before finally being let go hours later.
Burned in my head for the rest of my life. I've never forgotten hardly a minute of that night.
Greg's sister, Lynette Ray, has waited for more than 5 decades for detectives to call her saying they found her brother's killer.
I just would look at my phone every day and wait for a text, or is today going to be the day?
That day finally came in October 2024. Police arrested and charged Daryl Eugene Choate, who was living in Tooele, with murder.
What was the feeling when you finally did get the text?
A 50-pound, literally, like a 50-pound brick had been removed from my chest. And I took my first real deep breath I felt in a long, many years. It was such a relief.
We have gone in the last 30 years from needing a quarter size of blood to just the tiniest fleck of blood. Be about 2,500 cells is what we used to need, and now we need around 50.
Amy Newman, the lab director for the Utah Bureau of Forensic Services, says newer techniques like YSTR have been game changers. This process tracks lineages through DNA even when individual profiles cannot be identified.
And so it's passed through father to son to grandson, runs through the male line.
In 2023, Utah introduced probabilistic genotyping, a data analysis method that decodes complex DNA mixtures involving multiple individuals, low-level samples.
Complicated to analyze, and now we can analyze them.
The National DNA Database, known as CODIS, plays a critical role in this process. CODIS includes DNA from all over the country, and the more it's populated, the better the odds of generating investigative leads in cases without suspects. The crack in the Nickel case started when Steve Ocam, an agent with the State Bureau of Investigation, was doing outreach in Uinta County and Vernal.
So I was just teaching out there, talking about stuff we had available in, I think it was 2020, and the lead detective was sitting there and he's like, hey, I think I've got a case for you after. So we met, he showed me the picture on the wall and told me the story, almost brought me to tears, and I was in.
Advanced DNA testing is expensive. Knowing the value and seeing the need, Utah has made grant funding a priority, including a $1.5 million grant in 2020 and a $300,000 grant in 2023 for forensic genetic genealogy training and testing. Uinta County could not afford the $12,000 DNA testing tab, so they used SBI's grant. Without it, Ocam says Choate may not have been identified as a suspect.
A lot of the cold cases, some of the suspects are dead, right? So when you can identify someone, charge them, that's even just the cherry on top.
Once a suspect is identified, traditional STR testing must confirm the match before charges can be filed. And that's exactly how Choate was identified as a suspect, arrested, and charged with Nichols' murder more than 50 years later.
It is awesome to have put it all together, because there were times in that case where we thought there was no hope that anyone would ever be identified in terms of the second suspect.
Coming up here on Arc Salt Lake on a Friday night, get up close and personal with some of the world's best athletes. What you need to know if you head to Deer Valley this weekend.
We're out here because it's the World Cup, so I've been practicing, my spins. We'll see. No, if you know me, I snowboard. I don't ski. So I started to kind of pick it up the last couple years. It's not my favorite. I'm not the best at it, but we're going to make it work. Now, we're going to talk more about the World Cup coming up a little bit later, but first, let's talk about some of these temperatures right now across the state. And here we go, folks. Right now, we're seeing some 40s along the Wasatch Front and some 50s and 60s to the south. So relatively, we're still pretty mild here across the state of Utah.
Okay, so in case you missed it yesterday during our 4 and 5 p.m. newscast, meteorologist Chase Thomason hit the slopes while giving us the forecast. This weekend, the Freestyle International Ski World Cup is happening at Deer Valley. While he was there, we spoke with the resort to get that inside scoop if you want to check it out this weekend for free.
It's our annual Freestyle Ski World Cup here at Deer Valley. We are a mecca. We've had a legacy of hosting freestyle ski international events for the last 27 years. And we're standing in our Olympic venue. That's the 2002 games. We'll see it again in the 2034 games. And the disciplines that we specialize in here at Deer Valley are moguls on the champion course behind me and aerials on White Owl right next to us.
What makes this venue special?
This venue is special because it really was envisioned and built and tested for the O2 games. And here we are almost 30 years later, still using it every year. And overwhelmingly, if you talk to any of these athletes on the courses, they say Deer Valley's challenging. They look forward to it because they can show their best skills. But they always come back and say, we pull the best crowd. And they love to perform for this crowd here in Utah.
And talk about the crowd. I mean, we're seeing a lot of fans. It's a free event, so you can come on down at any time.
Yes. So the event is free. You can show up. It's a walk on snow. We do recommend that spectators wear their winter clothing, some sturdy boots, be prepared to be out in the elements, and it's free. And you can just come up and see some of these best athletes in the world. We're 1 year out today from the Olympics next year. These athletes are trying to secure a spot. So come see them here in person in our home state before they head off to Italy.
The Olympics are in 10 years here in Utah, or less than 10 years. Do you think there's some kids in the crowd that are watching and thinking, hey, I could be doing that in my home crowd?
I know there are kids in the crowd tonight saying, how do I become that by the time we are doing the Olympics here in Utah? We held a press conference yesterday and we had the Wasatch Freestyle team here. And that was one of the questions. What are the tips? What can you tell me so that I can be doing this and when the games come back to Utah? And it's really inspiring. And I think it's something that really has shown how the legacy has lived on, and that we're so excited to welcome the games back. And these kids and these families are so inspired by right here in their home turf.
Okay, we have a lot of snow coming to Park City Friday afternoon, Friday evening. How should folks get ready for that?
Yes.
How should they dress? Talk about maybe some hot chocolate, ways to stay warm.
Okay, so it's great news to hear snow's coming. That's what we want to see. It makes magic here at the venue. I've never seen anything more beautiful than the lights on the course and the snow falling down. But again, sturdy footwear, extra layers. We have a know before you go section on the Deer Valley website. Take a look at that. That's going to give you all the tips to get up here. Give yourself a little extra time, even just to get up the hill.
It's going to be good this weekend with this new snow and all that talent there. Meteorologist Sean Kelly here with that first alert forecast. We've been paying attention to the snow tonight.
Yeah.
And we have word of an inbounds avalanche that happened at Snowbird. Nobody hurt, but definitely going to be an issue heading into the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. They're certainly going to continue to do avalanche mitigation through the overnight into the early morning hours tomorrow. One of the reasons for the high risk of avalanche, of course, the heavy snow and just the lack of consistency on the type of snow, too. It was very, very wet. And now it's turning a little bit more powdery here. We had a little bit of grapple, and we also had the winds to contend with today. We had reports of upwards of 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts in the Snow Basin area earlier today. Luckily, the winds are dying down, but still, for the most part, pretty gusty, especially south of the cold front. You can see where it is right now because the winds behind it are out of the north and west. Out ahead of it, they're out of the south-southwest here. Still gusty in the Cedar City area, 36 miles per hour. But as you can see, through the overnight and into the start of the day tomorrow, the winds will calm, which is great news for those heading out to the ski resorts early tomorrow morning. We're into the 40s and 30s right now up and down the Wasatch Front. You can see it is very cold up towards the north in Park City, Logan area. And look at this. We still have snow falling in Brighton, moderate to heavy snow still falling. So I wouldn't be surprised if this area, including out to Snowbird, picks up more than a foot when this is all said and done in the next hour to 2 hours. Right now we're at 11 inches in Alta, but again, I think we'll be well over a foot here by tomorrow morning. Solitude even picking up 8 inches of snow, and we've seen some good rainfall out of this as well, about 1/4 of an inch or so on average. we are done with this system from basically Brigham City into the Ogden area. Farmington, you're kind of right at that cutoff here. It's starting to actually fill in once again further down towards the south, and I'm watching this perhaps push a little bit more towards the north. If we see that happen, I think we'll see some snowflakes flying here in Salt Lake City. We already did see that earlier, but again, some lighter snow from Draper down into Lehigh, Eagle Mountain, Spanish Fork, and Provo, and still falling in the Park City area and our area ski resorts. As we head through the evening, it gradually moves towards the south and it tapers off. As we get towards midnight, we should be all said and done with some lingering snow showers in the Richfield area, but waking up to dry conditions tomorrow morning. We will have to watch out for a few snow flurries further up towards the north and west in the Great Salt Lake area specifically. So St. George, I want to show you here that you're still kind of unbothered by that cold front. It's still really nice for the weekend. We're talking about temperatures here into the 60s as we make our way even into Sunday. A little bit cooler though for next week, breezy on Tuesday. We're watching finally a storm for you Thursday and Friday. That one looks to be a little bit more impactful for a wide range of the state here, and maybe seeing potential for accumulating snow even for us here in the Salt Lake City area. So again, for the weekend, we'll be dry other than a spot flurry or two. We're colder for Monday, colder for Tuesday and Wednesday as well. And there's that storm we're keeping a close eye out for Thursday and Friday.
Welcome back. A local sea lion has been undergoing some serious health changes at Utah's Hogle Zoo. This is video of 20-year-old Diego. Zookeepers say they noticed that he wasn't moving around as much and seemed to be in pain. They did some tests on site, but still did not have any great answers as to why he was struggling.
Poor Diego. Diego was then taken to the University of Utah for a CT scan. The scan revealed the sea lion has severe degenerative disc disease. Now Diego is undergoing treatment at the zoo. Zookeepers say it seems to be helping him.
I'm glad the CT scan worked, but I want video of him at the hospital getting wheeled in and sent to the CT scan.
And getting better too.
Yeah, good stuff. Hey, this weekend, the Boy Scouts of America will become Scouting America, the organization announcing the rebranding plan last year. The change officially goes into effect tomorrow, which is also the group's 115th anniversary.
The Boy Scouts said the rebranding is part of its ongoing efforts to welcome every child and family in the U.S. to experience the benefits of scouting. The decision came several years after the group started welcoming girls into Cub Scouting and Scouts BSA programs.
Great cause this weekend if you can help out. Thanks so much for watching us for 2 News at 7. If you'd like other ways to help, if you go to KUTV.com, we have the Super Bowl of Caring going on right now where you can help childhood hunger.
Take care.